Hi, my name is Sally Bernard, an artist, author, and spiritual experiencer. Welcome to Call Me Zena, a true story into the spiritual realms. Join me as I sit and discuss the journey of self-discovery and awakening with the help of my spirit guides. It's time to trust your intuition. This is your inner knowings. Through questions and points of conversation, I can help others feel empowered. With the ability to touch people's past lives, I help others connect and not feel alone. Sit with me and call in live, 888-994-4995. Hi, good afternoon, everybody. First of all, I just want to introduce my guest today. By now, everybody probably knows him, my husband, Steve. Hi, Steve.
Hi, thank you for having me.
And also, I have to just mention this. Please, everybody that's listening, let's give a thought for world peace, because it's obviously on everybody's mind. So we'll just give a second to just, hopefully, we will achieve world peace.
Very well said, Sally. And if you want to reach Sally, call in and ask a question on the show live. 888-994-4995, Studio 8. And if you'd like to send Sally a private message, it's callmezena1111@gmail.com. Also, if you're listening on Facebook, you can type a message and we'll see if we can get it read on the air.
Thank you, Steve. And as everybody knows by now, whoever is listening, I work very well with my first question that continues. So I need a question for somebody either in the audience or from yourself.
Right. So in recent weeks, we've gotten a little bit away from your psychic ability. So I'd like to move towards the psychic world. And things happen between us. They've been happening since, almost 2 years that we're together now. And that is, one of us will say something, the other one will say, "Oh my God, I was just going to say the same thing." And it, just happened yesterday when I said to you, as we were thinking about going out to dinner, I said, "I think I'm going to wear the same clothes that I wore last night."
Oh my God, I can't believe you said that on the air.
Yeah, well, I said it. And what did you respond?
I was just thinking the same. We never put the same clothes on the following day to go out for dinner, but I was thinking exactly the same.
But regardless of the same clothes, which is not the point of the story.
Yeah, I know.
What do you think causes the interaction between two people and their minds becoming one?
That is something, and you know that I have mentioned this to you too. I can answer many questions on the show. I'm obviously in some sort of a trance, and I get the question and I can give the answers, and I've been able to do this. This is actually strange for me too, because either you're reading my mind or I'm reading your mind. It has to be working this way because, yes, this was just one thing, but over the last 6 or 7 months, it's been continual, one after another. I'll say something and you had the thought of saying exactly the same thing to me. So even for myself, I don't have all the answers. I don't claim to have all the answers, but I feel that we have a connection very much, that we are being guided, and we probably maybe, and this is just coming to me now, we have the same similar guides, not every one, and they're giving you messages and me at the same time, and they're implanting some of the answers to me and yourself.
So you believe that it could be our guides that are giving us the same thoughts?
I am just saying that as I'm saying the first time to you on the air, Steve, because I'm not aware. And I said, as much as I'm able to answer questions, this has actually surprised me too, because it happens too often for it to be coincidence. Too many things that we say that are so similar, you will ask me the question and I have the answer, or vice versa at the same time. So how does that happen? I don't know. I really don't have the answer to that.
And if any of your listeners have similar experiences, please write in, call in, or anyone in the studio audience that have similar instances, please ask a question.
Is there anybody in the studio? We'll open it up to the studio. Do you have any questions for me?
Okay.
Silence. Okay, Steve. This is up to you. Dawn, Freddie, where are you? Freddie.
Okay.
Okay, it's okay. We normally have more
right.
in the studio.
So we've opened it up with a little bit of psychic. Let's move on and talk about past lives.
Okay.
We're watching a program, a period piece. I won't say what it is, and we're enjoying it. And it seems to bring thoughts to you of this was your family. And could you explain a little bit about past lives and how you realized and how it was brought to your attention that this could have been where you were living?
Okay, having said that, and you know a lot of my history because I have told you this, and again, for anybody listening that has been following me, they know about my Aldo, who actually explained many things about past lives. He actually had mentioned to me a life that I had been in, which was, I call my prominent life, because I was somewhere I can go back into history and check this. So we started watching a program. Again, it was in the 15th century.
The 14th and
14th and 15th century, yes, where I was a part of. For me to have suddenly somebody in this world at this particular time in my life that presented that to me, I probably may not, obviously, have believed it, because we all have this mind. I didn't even know how much I believed in past lives. But what was happening to me, that from that particular lifetime in the 15th century, I was sketching and drawing, having never, ever been able to draw before. And to validate that, for people that may have seen my sketches without me understanding what I was sketching, I was drawing this family's coat of arms, which I think you believe you have shown.
Yes.
I have shown you. So how am I, in this century, able to draw a coat of arms from someone from the 14th or 15th century? Then Aldo, who was my guide here that explained things to me, he never told me, but he said, look this up on the internet. And I have mentioned this a few times. I'm looking up my drawings, and there is the validation from the 15th century, from this particular family that I was part of. I'm drawing many things, and I'm seeing many things. So my message here, and as you know too, Steve, is to show people that there is so much more. I've been able to, the best that I can, and again, I can't prove it. I can only tell you that I'm drawing from that particular lifetime, that there is so much more going on. Do we remember our lifetimes? Not necessarily, but we are watching a program on Netflix that actually talks about me, because I am in history, apparently, if it's me, that I'm seeing
and just
myself.
to make your audience aware, it's a true story.
It's an accurate, yes, it's accurate about the, you know, again, and I've been asked this before, I'm not completely ready to say who I was, and I'm sure that you or many of our viewers can say that, because people can say, oh my goodness, is that who she was? I believe that's who I was, because I'm drawing from there. So I believe it's my family. Professor Aldo told me that too.
And in this particular scenario, you shared with me that your guardian was a very important clergyman.
Yes, he was.
Was it Aldo that shared this with you, or did you get some other message about it?
No, how that came about, I'm drawing this particular person who, I can actually say this, who was a pope in those days, who actually looked after me, but I had no idea and I didn't know anything about this. But one of my first sketches, which I have on paper, is I'm drawing this particular person with a big cross talking in a pulpit, I believe it's called. So I'm saying to myself, why am I doing that? Because it's not necessarily at this particular time in my lifetime, it's not my religion. But religion is, you know, I didn't know that, but I'm thinking, why am I drawing this? So Aldo, who was my guide, said to me, look this up. I know that because I was in that lifetime with you, and I'm looking it up, and I'm seeing this particular pope that I have just drawn talking in a pulpit. So I don't know. I don't have all the answers, Steve, but to me it's very real. How do I draw that? From 15th century to now, I'm drawing it.
And then all of your early drawings, Aldo would describe for you what happened and why you drew them.
He did, and that was actually in my first book. He went into a room, he went into, as I am too, in some sort of a trance, and he would explain my drawings. I didn't know necessarily what I'm drawing. When I'm just having a conversation and I'm not in the trance that I am now, I have no idea what I draw. But I am drawing things particularly from that lifetime. I just want to say that we've had, all of us, from my belief, that we've had many, many different lifetimes. But this lifetime that I had in the 15th century was very important for me, and it came through in this life for me to remember.
And lifetime to lifetime, it probably isn't consistent with either gender or religion, or whether you were even a dog or a cat.
No, it's not. But I believe, from what I'm understanding today, and I'm a few years into this now, that Aldo came into that lifetime with me because he was in that lifetime. Apparently everything that's happening to me now, and I think that I'm just learning, he told me at that time that I'm re-remembering what I already knew. I can't prove this. I put it on paper. I'm able to give messages. So my proof is within myself. For people to understand that, I don't expect everybody to understand that, absolutely not. But I believe that we continue this message by example, and hopefully I am an example to share this with people.
Now, you found your Aldo about 18, 19 years ago, but all throughout your life you've had some interesting experiences. Do you feel that you had a guide prior to Aldo that helped you through things?
I think we all have guides, and I say the word guides because I believe we do. I was lucky to have one of my guides who is incarnated in this particular lifetime with me. That was not coincidence. He showed himself to me, as my viewers may know, without going into the whole story, about 19 years ago, when I started to what they call wake up, and I began to realize that there was so much more. He had become part of my life today. But we all have this. Were there other guides from that particular lifetime? Yes, and I can go into many stories, as I have shared with you, that how I knew who I knew from that lifetime. The internet today is very good. I just want to explain that. If I get something that I feel that I want to do some research, I go into the internet and I seem to have the answers that I already have. So I am a complete believer in this.
So we have Margaret and we have Sandy in the audience, and they know you for quite a long time. And have you noticed the positive changes in Sally over the last 18 or 19 years than from when you first met her?
Yes, absolutely.
Do you have the mic, Margaret? Because they're not going to hear your side of it. Okay, just thank you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
We've known each other for, I can't even remember how many years, 30 years maybe?
Yes.
And you came into my life with somebody else. You were introduced to me by someone. And we've had this close connection for all these years. And I used to come to your house regularly and sit and talk with you and Aldo. And he was a super person. I mean, I have never any bad to say about him, never had. But seeing you, he used to talk like you talk now, with whatever reason, you know, I don't know what you call it, spiritual. And I used to just sit and listen, was amazed. But now I look back on these days, you were just learning then. And it's amazing what you've become. I'm very, very proud to be a friend of yours.
Thank you, Margaret. And you know, it's not all, and I often say I try to be completely devoid of an ego, because it's not me, it's my message. And it's really important. And I will say this again, that I believe that each and every one of us can do what I'm doing. We may not be ready, so it could take another lifetime or 2 lifetimes from now. My lifetime, in this particular lifetime, was for me to understand a little bit more. By example, I can spread my message, and you are a classic example of that, and I thank you for that. Because you've seen many things that maybe I can do because I've tapped into this. Can you do it? Yes. Can each and every one of us in the studio or anybody out there can do this? But we're not always ready to open up. But I have, and you've seen many, many what we can call that definitely not coincidences. That
No,
these
like
things.
we have been together, just out in walking or whatever the case may be, and something strange would happen that I would classify as strange. Oh, that's coincidental.
Yeah.
So I've been around you when your things have happened, but just to hear and see you, it's just amazing. I love it.
Thank you very much. And I also want to bring Steve into this, because when I first met Steve, for the few friends that I do have that have had similar experiences with me being around them and they've had things happen, they say, well, Steve is going to start seeing this, because to be, and again, it's not me, but what I've touched, to be around a person that has touched this, it's going to affect the significant other or anybody else, a friend in their lifetime. So I have many friends that have said, well, if you've met Steve, he's going to believe this. And I said in the very beginning, I don't know, but here we are today. Mm-hmm. You're sitting on my show.
20 years ago, 12 years ago, different times that we've met, I never would have subscribed to any of this. But ever since we've been together, since February of last year, which that seemed kind of weird that it's been almost 2 years now, I'm a total 100% part of what you're all about, and I've really felt that I've developed skills, if you will.
Yes, you have. And just talking about, I believe we talked in the opening, I don't always remember what we talked about, but I believe we touched on this, that we have a similar experience when things are happening. You know what I'm thinking about, and I know what you're thinking about. This is all, I believe, to go back to where I'm coming from the other, let's say the other side, or whatever you want to call it, the other side of the veil. They're all here to help each, and I want to say this, each and every one of us. It's not me, it's not you, it's not the people in the studio, it's everybody. But we're not always ready. But when you start to believe that maybe there's something more, we all can experience what I'm going through. It's very, very important for me to spread this message. And I often say by example, because so many things have happened to me. When I first met you, I didn't know how much that you may understand. My friends were telling me, how can he be with you without understanding this? Sure enough, a few months later, you're a very good example of that. It started happening to you too, not just me. It happened to you.
And I think you were very amazed at how quickly I became part of your experience.
Because we were together, and the most important, and I want people or any of our viewers that are listening today, try to just keep an open mind. Sometimes when things happen, and it happened with us, could this be coincidence? Yes, in the beginning, maybe we say it was coincidence. More and more that these unexpected validations happen, you go that there has to be something more, correct?
Yes.
There has to be something more. And to me, my message today is to, it's not to be rich and famous suddenly, I'm there. I'm there to spread, well, that's nice too, but I don't have to be there. It's to spread this message, to open up your whole being to maybe that there's something more. And I think you've experienced that.
And also, as you mentioned, we were speaking just before the show, that you must believe in the words that come out of your mouth.
Totally. For any of this to happen, as far as I can tell you, is that you have to have an open mind. Without that open mind, things will happen, but you don't look at it the way that we look at it when you've got an open mind. Because you can be having a conversation, and then suddenly you're saying, well, how in the world did that happen? If you've got an open mind, you can suddenly see that it can happen, that you're getting validation from that. And then it begins to open up your mind more. It's like if you have a closed mind, you can't be open to this. If you have an open mind, you're open to it, correct?
Correct. All right, so if you'd like to speak to Sally live, if you're listening, 888-994-4995, Studio A.
So, okay, I see a few more people in the audience here. One being Freddie. Freddie, do you have any?
I got one. Today you were part of a show that we brought in two different concepts, two different ideologies, two different beliefs, for lack of a better word. Very similar to what you're talking about right now. How if you buy into something that can help you health-wise, you should try, keep an open mind. Is that a good format that we're trying to accomplish, giving people the opportunity to seek different things that are healthy and spiritually, and I guess deep inside, do they really want to believe?
No, but you know what? We can't change. Yes, everything that happened in that show was meant to be, and I see how real that was. Because even with Steve sitting here, he needed, without going into the whole show, there were many aspects of your last show that opened Steve's mind even, because he has an open mind. If you have a closed mind, you're not necessarily going to see that. But when you start to open that mind, as you did, as we did, many of viewers on your last show, I could see it was just like it continues. It's like the story continues from here on in. Many things that I had been talking to, even for myself, I saw the validation here on the show with the lady that was sitting here. I didn't know her that well, but without going into the whole scenario, I had spoken to her about a month ago about something that she had talked about a patch that can help pain and many, many other things. Well, I believe this because my mind is open. So I said, okay, and I became a member and I bought the patch. It even took me to today to realize that this patch was very important. Suddenly, and she's not from Florida, she's sitting here when I walk into the studio. Could that be coincidence? No, she needed to give me at this particular time in our life, especially with you right now, Steve, if you don't mind me saying, you have pain, just like a lot of us. It's there to help the pain. But we will continue to get that validation if we have an open mind until we get it, basically. So here, we got it here today, after a month ago that I spoke to this lady. So yes, as long as we have that open mind, we will continue to see what they're trying to show us.
And we don't always catch it at first glance. Sometimes you have to go through it a few times.
Absolutely, 100%, you are correct. I have the open mind that I should have, but it still takes me time. It took me a couple of times to believe. I believed in this lady, but I didn't know I was going to see her, and I put what she was telling me aside in another bedroom. It was about a patch. That wasn't enough. I had to be here today where she was from another state that happened to be sitting in your studio talking about the patch that I had bought that I had not used.
And I had no
Very good
recollection
example.
of the conversation.
No, you didn't. But you know what? Here it opened your mind a little bit because you're sitting in the studio. I had spoken to this lady and she's right here in front of you. So it works in many different ways. And it's for us basically to interpret this too. It's important for us to listen, to have the open mind. We will get all the validation that we need, providing we have that open mind. And we don't have to believe it all, but just think that this is possible. They're trying to communicate with us. That's the most important. And you know when it sometimes happens? When we're at a low point in our life and we're looking for something more. I'm not saying that we all have to get to that point, but when we're looking for something more, the answers are there. They are there, they're in front of us. And we're more inclined to listen because we don't know where to go. We're lost. So let's listen to ourselves. We have the answers. I wrote that in my prose many years ago. We have all the answers. We just don't listen.
Steve, I gotta ask you, did you learn or were you witness to anything that you saw happen between the relationship that Sally had with the guest?
I'm sorry, repeat that?
Did you see anything between the relationship that Sally had with the guest that was in studio today?
Well, yeah, definitely Sally made it known that there was no coincidence that Eva was here. And Sally informed me that we had a conversation about what your guest was talking about, and I did not remember it. And now I'm full bore, ready to get into what your guest was offering, as you are.
And that's a very good example because, and I didn't necessarily want to bring this up, but even Steve, who's with me, and that's fine because I didn't listen to Aldo a lot of the time until it became, there was no gray area. It was what he was telling me was the truth. I did explain a little bit. It's about how to get rid of a lot of pain. They have a patch amongst other things. I'm not here necessarily to promote what she has, but I believed in it. I told you about it, and we have things going on in our life and you were thinking about something else, and that's fine. I understand that. But you weren't ready. You are today because here she is from another state sitting in our studio when I just had a conversation with this lady 2 weeks ago.
Of course, when we had that conversation, you probably didn't do what you normally do after you explain something. You didn't say to me, does that make sense?
I didn't, because I thought, honestly, he's not going to believe it, so that's okay. And I put it aside. But today, we were confronted with the same thing again. You were not meant to be here today on my show. You came into my show. I believe that's very important because, and it's a very important message, because if we don't catch it the first time, we may not even catch it the second time. But if we keep that open mind, we're going to see that it happens a third and fourth time, what we're meant to hear. We don't always see it right away. But if we keep that open mind, we will see it. They won't stop. They'll continue until we perhaps say, okay, I think I'm getting a message.
So it's not only finding an Aldo, sometimes you have to learn the message that you're trying to find in your own Aldo.
Exactly, Freddie. That's a very good example. For people that don't know, my guide's name was Aldo, and we're doing a movie, and we're going to call it Finding Your Aldo, because we all have what I had. Aldo was my guide here in person. I was able to speak to him for 18 years. We may not all have that, but we're given messages. We're all given messages in our subconscious, in our dreams. So try to just open up and say, maybe there is more. That's all we need to start with. Maybe there is more to what I'm talking about. I don't expect everybody, even people that are listening, to believe everything I say. That's okay. But we're opening up our mind to the fact that we are getting help, basically. We're getting help. We're not alone here. We're going through a I needn't even, to say what's going on in the world today. We all we have to feel what's going on. It doesn't even matter what side, as I open my show with world peace. But just know that there are helpers helping us. It's hard to see that with all the negativity in the world today, but we are getting help. We're definitely getting help. And the more people that can open up to this, we're going to see that we need to remain positive with all the negativity that's going on. There is hope somewhere. It's hard to believe right now. I understand that completely. But to keep that open mind, to know that we are getting help.
Very well put, Sally. And I think perhaps it's time to take a commercial break.
Okay. Thank you, Steve, because I don't know what time it is right now. Okay, thank you very much. We'll see you in a few minutes, right?
Yeah.
Thank you.
A true story, Call Me Zena, is the telling of Sally Bernard. Born in London, England at the end of the Second World War, she came to the U.S. in 1979. A mother of two and grandmother of four, she settled in Florida and worked in real estate. While going through a difficult time in her life, she was admitted into a hospital overnight in December of 2005. While settling back into her life, she began having vivid dreams and documenting them. By the third dream, a lady gave her a message to draw. With no artistic background or interest in art or history, Sally listened to her dreams and grabbed paper and crayons. Today, she has over 150 pieces of inspiring art and poetry. This book follows her journey and interpretations of these messages. She describes in detail how she's able to astral project and who she has met along her travels, including her spirit guides. This book will show you how anything is possible with an open mind. These events have changed Sally's life's direction, and this book will show you how to change yours. Purchase Call Me Zena on Amazon today.
This world, this life, this illusion. What is going on, we ask? What is happening? Why not take time and see what is happening? This world as we know it, it seems so real and yet so far away from where we've come. Corruption, greed, anger, power, revenge. Please wake up. We can change what is around us. How, we may ask. Learn to go back to where we were. Then we will have the clues. Then we can change and go forward. Please take the time. Do not fall into the game which we have put upon ourselves. We can change. We can make a difference. We have the power, each and every one of us. Go in peace. Go with love. Go as one. Zena. You have been watching Call Me Zena with your host, Sally Bernard. As an artist, author, and spiritual experiencer, know that you could always seek me out for resources. Visit artbysallybernard.com today. Now, back to the show. Hi, I'm back. Okay, I'm opening up anybody that's calling in or anyone at the studio.
Well, just
please
before
come
the
in.
break, Sally, Dawn walked into the studio with a white feather. And
She did?
Yes, she did. And I know it's important to you. Would you explain to us the importance of that white feather and how your association with that white feather came to be?
That white feather is very dear to me, Steve. Actually, when I started to open up to this whole thing about 18, 19 years ago, I was a girlfriend of mine. I'm sure I can mention her name today, Marita. And I met her. It was very strange how we met. But I said to her, she knew more at that point, had opened up much more to the spirituality of that aspect. Many things were happening to me at that particular time. But I said to her, I have a guide. I didn't know, but he was telling me, and his name was White Feather. I kept seeing white feathers. Well, she said to me, go into this a little bit more. Maybe you'll hear from him more. Well, I did. She guided me, actually, in the very beginning. And I'm going into the internet, and I said, I believe he's a Hopi Indian. I'm from England. We did not know about Hopi Indians, okay? I'm going, what is a Hopi Indian? So she said, read about it. And I started to read, and he was a Hopi Indian. And I mean, this is something that I'm more surprised that maybe even some of my viewers today, because they've heard where I'm coming from right now, so they understand there's more. I'm saying, how is this possible? He's giving me messages. And sure enough, every message that I could kind of get from my, let's say from my consciousness, it was going there. I'm saying he told me that he was an elder and he explained his life to me. I knew nothing about this, and yet my friend White Feather was telling me from many centuries ago.
So Sally, I ran to the dentist in between our show and your show, and on the street was his big feather.
Oh
and
my
I walked
gosh.
past it and I came back and I said, no, you got to pick it up. And I picked it up and it was his big white feather. So
There you go. He hasn't stopped talking to me, Dawn, for many, many years now. Today, I know that he's with me. I know he's giving me these messages. He was an elder from the Hopi Indian tribe, and he's given me many, many messages. I also would talk many times with my girlfriend Marita about it. He also explained to me that he was getting tired of giving these messages to people, but he also wanted to stay with me, and he still is. And there is a very good example. He's around us.
And White Feather has made himself known to me as well.
Yes, he has, because
The
I also,
incident where we were getting ready to go out, and I came to you to ask you a question. I felt something fall on my head. I put my palm out, and there was a white feather that kind of came from nowhere. We were indoors.
in the bedroom, right? And he was
right in the palm of my hand.
Right.
Then we were in Spain, and we were walking down a path, and there was a white feather amongst daisies, and I know daisies are very important to you as well.
And I actually want to bring Dawn. Dawn, you're here, right?
I'm here.
Into the conversation, because you had said that my daughter loved daisies, and my daughter, as my viewers know, passed about 1.5 years ago. I was not aware that she was into daisies as much as we now have found out, but I asked her daughter, my granddaughter, I said, did your mum love daisies? She said she loved daisies, and here was White Feather with daisies, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
There are no coincidences.
no coincidences, no. There are no coincidences.
it's pretty amazing.
Yeah, and as we often say, right, there, again, I'm going to say it, there are no coincidences. Even the fact how I even came to the Brooklyn Cafe studio, right? And we have many stories, Dawn, that we could share, which could be another show, but you're also aware of that today, Steve, of all the things that we have had happen here. We attract. Once we keep our minds open to this, we will attract. People have talked about, and it's true, the law of attraction. It happens to each and every one of us, only we don't take the time to listen, to see that this is not coincidence. Once we start to open up, many, many things happen.
Before, right now, you had been the only person that I've ever met with the belief system that you have. And since I've been involved here at the studio, I've met scores of people that have, similar mindsets. So.
That's exactly, and I'm glad you brought that up. That is the law of attraction. And we have Dawn here, who's been in the studio now for many, many years, right, running this, that they seem to come here. Why does this happen? Because we're attracting each other. We're attracting that energy, and it's really important. Even if someone comes in here and they don't believe it, they can sit here, as you didn't when you first met. Well, I'm not saying you didn't believe it, but you didn't have the interest that you have today,
I wasn't
right?
a subscriber. So
Exactly, and that's a very good word. We will bring in, through our vibrational energy, people that will help us, that we need to know, people from other lifetimes. And when we start to believe that, life becomes so very interesting, actually. It's not just, oh, poor me, this is happening. We can look at the poor me and say, maybe this is happening for a reason. Mm-hmm. And that reason is very important, because although karma is different the way that I might explain it, we do have karma. So we have things happen to us. And once we start to open up, we'll look for, out of negativity, we will look for the positivity. And it can happen, each and every one of us, it happens to.
Sally, what does my guide have to say for today?
Okay. He's telling you not to dwell. Only you know this. I don't have the answer of what it is, but they're telling me to tell you, stop dwelling on something that may or may not happen, okay? It is going to happen. You're getting the answers, Dawn. I don't know how much this makes sense to you. People around you are coming into your life. They're coming into the studio, not only in the studio, you're going outside of the studio, and they're reinforcing the ideas. I'm feeling it's an idea, the ideas that you have, but just believe with what you are hearing. Okay, I won't go into it more, but just believe that it is meant to happen. Does that make sense to you?
Okay.
Without going into it?
Okay.
Okay, that's all. That's fine. And the okay is great
All
too.
right, yes.
Okay.
That makes sense.
And I do believe also that somewhere along the line that your daughter is involved in this somewhere. Does that make it?
So my daughter asked me a question yesterday, and I told her to talk to her guide that
Okay.
you always say. She says, "What does Sally say I should do?"
Oh my gosh. Okay.
So she says, "How does she do that?"
Okay. I feel that, because I feel that they're showing me your daughter. And the conversations that you now have with your daughter are very, very important about where you're going to go beyond now. The idea is going to be reality, if that makes sense to you. But your daughter has a part of this, Dawn, definitely. Absolutely, definitely.
Interesting.
Thank you.
When something like this happens, where you out of the blue answer Dawn's question, and then bring her daughter into it, who is absolutely in Dawn's question without her telling you that, it just leads me to be more and more assured that everything that I've learned from you and everything that I hope to learn from you is just valid.
Well, again, I'm also surprised because I listen to what I'm hearing, but over the years I've had so much validation of my messages from people. Do I understand this completely? No. But I'm never, ever going to stop doing what I'm doing because I am given these messages. And I love the questions. We don't go into so much of the psychic in this program. I talk more generally, I know that. But these messages are important of what people ask me, and I'm able to give the answers. So.
Sally, I have a question. Seeing as I've known you and Aldo for so many years, could he possibly be my guide also? Or do I have someone?
No, he's not necessarily your guide, Margaret, but he watches over you. And he used to say that to you too. Yes, he's with you. I believe that we have many guides. He is my guide, but my guide, Aldo being one of them, is telling me for you to even be here, okay? That's not coincidence. But you have your own guides. I'm not sure who they are, but you have your own. Each and every one of us have guides. But he is part of your life because you are part of my life, and Aldo is my guide.
I've got the goosebumps.
Good. The famous
No
goosebumps.
matter where we are,
Right.
speak of Aldo,
Right.
I get goosebumps.
Right. That's
Which proves he's around.
validation. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Sally, what does Aldo tell you about your book and your movie?
Okay. I can tell you what he told me here, but I can also tell you what he's telling me from the other side. When he was here, I have written a book a long time ago just about my astral projection or maybe my abductions. I didn't realize that at that time. But he said to me, that is not the only book. There will be another book out. And I can honestly say that he used to say to me at least twice or 3 times a month, there will be another book. I didn't believe that I would have another book. So obviously from what I understand now, since I'm writing another book, that he is there saying, yeah, there is what I told you, another book. There is another book. And I'm sorry, the second part of that question, I don't remember.
And your movie.
And my movie too. He wasn't as involved in that, but he also knew that was what I was telling him because I started that so-called ball rolling, that there would be another movie. He also, obviously, with the book and the movie, he was very much for that because he used to say to me, I should be his mouthpiece. He did not want to, as I'm doing here, to talk on a show or any kind, but he wanted me to do that, which just as to say that he did not do that. I came here after he passed. I'm on the show. So I know he knows, but as he was here to say to me, I'm so happy you're doing this show in person, he's still telling me the same thing, but it's from the other side.
Do you feel like having to redo your book? In essence, you and Steve are now rewriting the book. There's a reason for that?
Absolutely. Can I see it? No, I'm frustrated, unfortunately, you know, as my viewers may know. And I love the Lynn who wrote my book, and he wrote it and we worked for a year. Unfortunately, and Lynn, if you're there on the other side, he passed a few weeks later after my book was finished. We hadn't edited it, and there's still much more work to go into the book. Although he had finished it, we then have to do the transcripts now, as you know, Steve. But I have to believe, and I absolutely do believe that there's a reason for that. Maybe there's parts of the chapters that maybe Lynn and I had not spoken about, that today, as each month or week goes forward, I'm understanding more. So maybe more will go into the book that I wasn't even aware that should be in the book.
You mentioned Marita before, and I know you've known her for a long time as well. And if there was one person besides Aldo that you could have these deep, meaningful conversations with, it was Marita. Could you describe how those sessions with Marita would go?
Yes, Marita I've also known for many years, and she has the same complete, absolute understanding that I have today. And she also became very part of my life about 15, 16 years ago. I do not see her. She's still here in this particular dimension in this life with me. I don't see her as much, but both Marita and myself would talk to Aldo for hours. At that time, she was a little more advanced than me because she had begun to woken up. I had not. But I knew that I was on the right track by talking to both Marita and Aldo. I don't bring her up very much, but today I see that she was definitely part of this. And we talk. We don't talk as much as I maybe should do with her, but she gets me and I get her because she's on the same path as me.
But some of those conversations with Marita, I think some of them were on the phone, that you could talk for several hours.
Yes. And that's how I realized that what I'm doing on my show, that I also could do this, because I started on the phone with her to talk. And I would say to her after an hour, she was great at asking me the questions. But I used to say, I don't remember what I just said to you. So I realized that I was in some sort of a trance. And she said, don't worry, I've written it down, okay? And which she did do. But I said, how am I doing this? She's asking me the questions, I'm talking on the phone, and I don't remember. So that's how it all actually started for me. And I'm glad you brought that up, yes.
Question, anyone?
Yes. How about my guides? Do they see a move for me?
Hi, Sandy. Okay. Right now, they're going, for some reason, they're telling me status quo. I'm not sure what that actually means, but you may do. Yes, your moving is not right now, okay? I don't see anything right now in the so-called present. That could be a month, it could be 2 months. It's up to you, but I think they're telling me stay where you are right now, okay? Stay where you are right now.
That makes sense.
Okay. And remember that, because if you get sidetracked into something and you think, well, maybe I should go here or there, I can't, I'm only giving you advice from what I hear. Ultimately, we have free will, and that's up to us. But what I'm hearing is status quo. I believe that's stay where you are type of thing. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't remember always. But right now, you're okay. You're right where you're supposed to be.
Okay, that's good.
Now, do
Thank
your
you.
guides tell you about health issues, or do you ever see things that for people close to you?
Well, actually, I do. I don't always understand it myself, but as an example of that, many, many years ago, and my friend Dawn, I'm going back about 18, 19 years ago. Well, not you, Dawn, another friend of mine, Dawn, who was in my book. She was a very good friend of mine. We worked together. We were good friends, so we would see each other all the time. And I believe she may even be listening to this show. I haven't actually contacted her for a while. But I remember saying to her, she was moving from Florida to the Carolinas. I didn't know that I could do this. I really don't at that time. But I was seeing things, and Dawn was validating what I was seeing was what had been happening. And for some reason, I gave her some message that her husband had something wrong with him. I didn't know I could do this. She wrote it down. It was some weird name. They got to the Carolinas where she moved, and sure enough, he was admitted to hospital with what I had written down. This was a long time ago, and his health, as far as I know, has been fine over the last 19 years. But I was given that message to tell her that. So I began to open up my mind to the fact that maybe I could tell people that were things that were wrong with them. Did I necessarily want to do that? I didn't know that I was going to be accurate, so it was hard for me to even understand that I could do that. But as the years have gone by, I see that more than I can, and I do have, not an obligation, but I can say, look, we can do something about it. I think this is wrong with you.
So Cousin Linda is watching, if you have any messages for her.
Hi, Linda. Not at this particular time, but I just want to say hello and thank you for following me, and thank you for watching me. And Steve is here, who's your cousin. So you may want to say hello to her too.
Hi, Linda.
Has your perspective changed as you go through all of this? Because we've been working with you for a little over a year. You've been married almost a year. Has perspective on what you do and your abilities changed, how you help people?
It's become more, I'm not going to say part of my life, because it's always been part of my life, but the more that I'm meeting people, and Steve is a good example, I feel, can I switch off from this? Absolutely. People ask me, yes, I can. But I believe as every even month goes by that I need to keep up with this. My perspective has changed because they're giving me more messages, or I'm understanding more of them. Let's say this. They're telling me this. I'm understanding more of their messages today than I did when I first opened up to this. And that's very important. And it's important for people that are part of my life today to see that. Because I want to spread this on. I want to tell people that anything is possible if you believe. So they're opening up to the fact that I say that, and introduce me to more and more people in this lifetime that I'm opening their minds up to this.
Sally, do you believe that for all of us here in this dimension, our script has been written and we spend our lifetime acting it out?
Yes, yes and no. Yes, I believe that absolutely. When we come into this lifetime, we have a script. This is a play, and we're all playing our part. Can we change that part? What we feel is very dear to us, we will carry on usually and do what we feel, but we have free will, and I've talked about that many times. The fact that we write our script, it doesn't always stay with our script. That's up to us. But we will get messages to keep on track with our script. However, and again, we can talk another time about this, we have different timelines. So it'll take us into maybe another timeline. So we may be changing what we had already figured out, but we will come back to that. It's not sketched in stone. That's what they're telling me.
So in other words, we do have a script, but we can go off on tangents, either created by us or led astray
Yes.
through certain means.
And that's very important too, because I believe, and they're telling me this too, when we diversify, well, we choose difficult things in our script, but when we diversify from what we, let's say, have said that this is what's meant to happen in this lifetime, we will get a lot of, oh my gosh, maybe I shouldn't do that, but we still might go ahead and do it. But then we'll say, you know what, I don't think I should do that. It could be the same scenario. So they're telling us not, and I'm going to use this, which I often do, about driving in the street. We're going down one way and we decide to go another way. Listen to that, because the other way might be what we wrote in the script. The first way may be that we have an accident and we're not here any longer. If it's our time, we will take that road. But we need to listen to our intuition. We have free will. Ultimately, the decision is still ours. But there's a little inner voice that will tell us what we had maybe talked about before we came here, that this should happen. But we don't always follow it. Mm-hmm. It's all for our good. It's all for our journey. Whatever we choose is for us. And it can be bad too. It's not all positive. But it's for us to learn. We're learning. That's what we're here for, to learn, to learn.
I was reading an article this morning talking about earth angels, and so it said that sometimes when we come into this world, we are given this path from the universe, from God, and then other times we may choose it as a child. What do you think about earth angels?
Well, I believe that earth angels are amongst us. Let's say that. Not everybody can see them. They're here to protect and guide us, Dawn, and it's important. I think we do have conversations with them. We're just not aware of it. We have conversations with them before we come into this world, and then when we go. But they're here to guide us. And actually, that's exactly what they do. They guide us. We don't always listen. So again, I'm going to say go with your gut, go with your inner feeling, because that's how they can contact us. Sometimes if you say, should I go down this street? And I'll go back to that because it's an easy one to relate to. Or should I go that way? Go with what feels important with your gut, which way you go, because that's the path and not just down a street. That's the path that we're meant to be following.
Do you think Aldo was an earth angel?
Aldo... He was for me. I mean, he was my guide. He told me things that I had no idea of, but that came true. He guided me. He showed up when I broke my shoulder 10 or 12 years ago. He was at the hospital. I didn't tell him that I was going to that particular hospital. I opened my eyes after getting out of the ambulance. He was there. I'm going to sneeze again. Oh my gosh. Okay. So he was my earth angel, yes.
Interesting. And my son is starting a new job next week. And part of it was under your guidance of things happening. What did his guide say about what's next for him?
Okay, he's listening to his intuition, Dawn, and that's very important because they're giving him messages. So whatever he feels that he should be doing, and again, he's also going to get sidetracked by people, I believe, even that who he's working with right now. They may try to put him on a different path, but ultimately He has the answers because they are able to be getting through to him. I want you to tell him that. What he feels, although he might say, well, how, I don't know, I'm feeling very strongly about it. Go with that. It's very important. Believe it is another way of going where he's going in his life. He's going to take a different, it's going to be the same profession, but it's a different road. He's going to do a different, it's going to have, it's not necessarily what he thought he was going to do. Let me put it like that. But he's doing the right thing. Does that make sense?
Yeah, we'll see where it rolls out, but yes.
Tell him not to be persuaded by, I'm going to say his peers, actually. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
He needs to go with what he feels because he is on the right track. And it may not be now. He may change his mind. But ultimately, that is where he's meant to be going.
And my daughter, she's looking for her partner, her next romantic life partner.
Okay.
How should she go about finding that? Or will she find it in D.C.?
She will, but it's not going to be right, let's say, in her immediate future. She needs to go out. She needs to keep, again, I often talk about an open mind. I believe that she is going to meet her partner there. It's not immediate, though. It's not immediate. She's got other things that she needs to do right now.
True.
That it might sidetrack her. She's not ready. It's not right the time. It will be, and she will be ready, but not right now. Let's say instant right now. No.
And how does it feel for you to be able to give people so many messages to help guide them in a positive direction? What is that like for you?
Well, I feel like I'm just the messenger to tell them what to do. And again, I can't tell anybody to do necessarily what I'm saying. I feel that they're helping me by telling that person. But again, they're saying it's still up to us. We have the final word. I'm just trying to put them on the right track, whether they take notice of me or they don't. I've done what I'm meant to do. I will continue to tell people what I feel that they should do. They don't have to listen, but I have to say what I'm hearing.
Okay. Shall we wrap this up?
Okay, and I think we've come to the end of the program. Please, same time next week, okay? I hope to see you, and thank you, Steve, for being my guest.
Thank you for having
And my
me.
husband.
And I'll see you at home.
Thank you. Thank you. Coincidence or not, it's time to trust your intuition and knowings. Thank you for joining me through this journey of self-discovery and awakening with the help of my spirit guides. I'm Sally Bernard, and you can find my book, artwork, and contact through artbysallybernard.com. Join us next week. This has been Call Me Zena.